A gathering of older individuals are giving meetings about having lived in an environment of yield curse and steady residue suggestive of the economic crisis of the early 20s of the 1930s. The first scene is an older lady expressing her dad was a rancher, yet didn't begin that way. The scene changes. We are acquainted with a rancher and single man named Joe Cooper, Matthew McConaughey. He is a school-taught previous NASA aircraft tester and designer who had to surrender his occupation to cultivate, living in an overview farmhouse, probably possessed by his father by marriage. They ranch corn, with wheat at this point not accessible and okra seconds ago having become wiped out because of curse. We see no creature life. It is the 2060s in eastern Colorado. The greater part of the total populace has been wrecked from starvation and America has been decreased to a striving agrarian culture for the beyond 30 years. Innovation has ground to a halt for the beyond 40 or so years, with cars at this point not created and a PC as an extravagance thing. Anyway, optimistically, there are no more conflicts or militaries on the planet any longer. At a particular age, kids are tried to figure out what occupations they should take to assist humankind with making do. In school, it is instructed that the US going to the moon in 1969 was a fabrication to drive the Soviet Association into liquidation and win the virus war. Cooper's family comprises of his kid father by marriage, Donald, John Lithgow, 15-year-old child Tom, Timothy Chalamet, and 10-year-old little girl Murph, Mackenzie Foy. Donald was brought into the world toward the finish of the 20th or start of the 21st 100 years and affectionately reviews times when innovation was continually changing and new contraptions being created. He is a sensible man who deals with the family obligations and coexists well with Cooper. Both of them sit on the yard savoring lager the night and philosophize about the state of the world and how things ought to be. Joe's child Tom is a kid of normal knowledge, previously being precluded to be a rancher by the school organization, since an advanced degree is presently something just a tiny rate those will partake in the honor of. His little girl Murph is a scrappy and profoundly savvy young lady whom Cooper is exceptionally near and who imparts his liking to space and science. She accepts her room as spooky by a phantom since books continue to tumble off her racks and a lunar boat model was simply pushed over. The Cooper family carries on with a straightforward life and have an interesting treat of going to a round of an evidently significant association ball club at a nearby ball field like what the youth baseball play on today. His father by marriage is disinterested at the amateurishness of the players and having just popcorn for rewards and no wieners. An oncoming residue cloud interferes with the game, helping them to remember the terrible world they live in, and closes it rashly. The Cooper family makes back to the farmhouse during the residue storm and Murph's room didn't have the window shut and the residue subsided into ideal lines on the floor. Cooper goes through the whole evening concentrating on the lines and Cooper thinks the lines are paired code and facilitates for a spot he wants to find and uses a guide. He goes through the following day heading to the Rockies and his little girl slips into the truck to accompany him. Not long after showing up at his last objective, a fenced-off gated region, Cooper is secured and tasered into obviousness. At the point when Cooper awakens, he is in a room being cross-examined by a peculiar-looking robot called TARS. It turns out Cooper is in the trick of the trade on the planet, a dugout, and meets his old manager from NASA, a British chap named Dr. John Brand, Michael Caine, in addition to his lovely youthful girl, Amelia Brand, and Hathaway. No one is persuaded that Cooper just found the spot unintentionally and Dr. Brand accepts a power brought Cooper there. The compound Cooper found is really the remainders of NASA, occupying the office stealthily and presently not supported by the public authority due to the shortage of assets. There is a space mission leaving soon to go through a wormhole of obscure beginning close to Saturn that will take them to 3 possibly tenable planets, 2 of them circling a super-gigantic dark opening named Gargantua, an enormous dark circle about the size and breadth of Earth's sun yet which has a sun-powered mass of around 50 million Earth suns. A decade sooner, 12 individual space explorers were conveyed through the wormhole in 12 distinct boats, however just 3, Mill Operator, Mann, and Edmonds, enacted the thumbs-up guide, every one of whom are at 3 planets. Right now, NASA has no one to guide the rocket and without a second to spare they believe that Cooper should go, regardless of his family obligations. The actual shelter is really a rotator, which is projected to become something different later on. The mission has 2 plans. Plan A is to get the rotator into space as a space station and salvage an enormous number of individuals. This requires Dr. Brand to settle the condition that will permit the researchers to beat gravity and get the rotator into space. Plan B is to colonize the most livable of the 3 planets alongside a lot of frozen undeveloped organisms to repopulate the species. Dr. Brand guarantees Cooper the Earth is kicking the bucket and humankind doesn't have significantly longer, and that he wants to direct the specialty and investigate, in case his family and the remainder of the world all pass on soon. Cooper is extremely hesitant, in light of the fact that he's scarcely left Earth's climate, yet Brand consoles Cooper the 12 space travelers sent on the mission never at any point left the test systems ahead of time. The following day, Cooper and Murph return to the farmhouse. His girl is very annoyed with him for picking the mission. That evening, Cooper and Donald are perched on the yard drinking brew, and Cooper helping Donald back to remember the uselessness of remaining and the circumstances they live in. Donald guarantees Cooper he's making the best choice, yet needs to fix things with Murph. The following morning, Cooper gives his all to comfort a crying Murph and vows to return to her and that they could try and be similar age when he returns, giving her a wristwatch to look at time. Murph denies his affirmation and that her shelf is speaking with her in Morse code to remain. Notwithstanding her requests, Cooper won't withdraw and another book tumbles down before he leaves, however Cooper ignores it. Cooper leaves and expresses farewell to Tom and Donald, and keeping in mind that he's heading out, Murph stomps out the front entryway needing to see him one final time, yet all at once it's past the point of no return. The space transport make rockets from Earth at Rapid with Cooper, Amelia Brand, Dr. Doyle, Wes Bentley, Dr. Nikolai Romilly, David Jossi, and the TARS and Case robots ready. Doyle and Romilly are 2 researchers that were in the gathering room at NASA during the gathering with Cooper. At the point when the rocket leaves the environment, everything goes calm out of nowhere, with the exception of within. The ring-molded Perseverance is up ahead and they dock with it, which is every one of their requirements for space travel. The Perseverance is leaving Earth and they bid goodbye to a turning Earth and need to anticipate the desolate, claustrophobic, and possibly risky truth of room and place themselves in a plastic-shrouded water cryosleep bed for the 2-year excursion to Saturn. Dr. Brand makes an excursion in Cooper's old 2010 Evade Slam truck to convey the vehicle back to the property and give a copied message from Cooper to his loved ones. Murph seems trusting her dad is home, however furiously storms once again into the house. Donald tells Dr. Brand about how Murph is embarrassing her instructors, yet Brand tells Donald perhaps she'll ultimately embarrass him. After 2 years, the Perseverance is circling Saturn and Cooper is out of cryosleep, evaluating video messages. His child Tom lets him know he's doing a firm and Donald says greetings, advising Cooper that Murph actually will not converse with him. The Perseverance group happen upon the wormhole, which looks like a plasma globe and will give a speedy channel to the team to arrive at the 3 planets in the following cosmic system. The team take off for the unpleasant ride, a la 2001 Limitlessness, and come to their most memorable mission, Mill Operator's Planet. During the time through the wormhole, Amelia connects and feels she contacted somebody's hand. They end up in a district of room around 10 billion light, a very long time from planet Earth. They choose to make a beeline for Mill Operator's Planet, planning to stop there just momentarily as its closeness to Gargantua causes extreme gravitational time expansion, with every hour spent on a superficial level costing 7 Earth years. Cooper, Amelia, Doyle, and the robot Case choose to gamble with themselves and mean to be in and out of there in not more than minutes to overview, while Romilly stays on the Perseverance to concentrate on the dark opening and get quantum information from it. At the point when they land, all they find is shallow water and destruction of Mill Operator's boat, who obviously kicked the bucket and had shown up only a little while prior, despite the fact that she sent the thumbs up signal on Earth 10 years prior. The team think there are mountains somewhere far off that end up being monster torrent waves. Brand becomes caught under the Mill Operator destruction and must be safeguarded and conveyed back by Case. Doyle is suffocated, and the boat is overwhelmed and will not have the option to make it out for 1 more hour, costing them years. Cooper is disappointed at Brand, yet pardons her mix-up. After the motors are for the most part purged of water, Cooper fires them up and simply figures out how to get away from the following tsunami and take off the surface. Cooper and Brand return to the Perseverance to track down a matured and dark Romilly in a robe. 23 Earth years have passed and Romilly has invested the greater part of the energy holding up with several stretches in cryosleep. It is presently about the year 2090 on the planet. They are past squashed, however Brand is feeling quite a bit better to realize her dad is as yet perfectly healthy. They are getting messages from Earth, however incapable to communicate out. Cooper surveys every one of the recordings and separates, taking a gander at 23 years of recorded recordings, and sees directly in front of him his 17-year-old child Tom, showing an image of what he accepts as the right young lady for him. In the following video, Tom, presently played by Casey Affleck, acquaints with Cooper to his grandson Jesse. In the following video, a now climate-beaten and 40-year-old Tom uncovers that Donald kicked the bucket 7 days prior and is covered close to Jesse, and that he trusts Cooper to be absent or dead and necessities to let him go. Then, at that point, subsequently an obvious live recording comes from Murph, presently played by Jessica Chastain. Following 25 years of quietness, a still difficult and disheartened Murph tells off her dad for not satisfying the chance of being back, since she is presently 35 years old, which is a similar age he was the point at which he left Earth. It resembles a blade has been dove into his heart, and he believes he has double-crossed her seriously and has no real way to discuss back with her. On the planet, Murph quits recording the video. She is presently working for Dr. Brand and living in the NASA fortification, who is currently around 90 years of age and restricted to a wheelchair. Brand is as yet attempting to settle the deficient gravity condition to get Plana rolling, and is consoling Murph that the team of the Perseverance are accepting their recorded messages, yet the group can't communicate out. Now that the Perseverance group have recuperated genuinely from Murph's video, they banter whether to visit Man's planet or Edmund's planet, since they just have sufficient fuel to visit one of them before they head back to Earth. Brand needs to visit Edmund's planet since his planet seems, by all accounts, to be the better possibility, yet Cooper needs to visit Man since he's actually communicating his reference point. On the planet, Murph gets back to the old Cooper property with her sibling Tom, a rancher. He has quite recently burnt 33% of his harvest as a result of scourge, which is spreading. He presently has his old neighbor's harvest to develop since the neighbor moved or passed on. They accept the ranch will before long deliver nothing. She eats of corn souffle and fresh corn with Tom, his better half Lois, Leah Cairns, and child Coop. She finds Coop has a terrible hack. They believe she should remain the evening, however she declines on account of terrible recollections from her young life. Murph knows that the nitrogen levels in the air are causing significant damage, increasingly more every day on their child. A little while later, Murph is once again at the NASA fortification and learns Dr. Brand is kicking the bucket. He admits to her that Planet is beyond the realm of possibilities and that he had misled her. He would never tackle the gravity condition to get individuals off Earth. She accepts her dad had a lot of familiarity with Brand's plan and that he got away and deliberately left her and every other person to pass on. Dr. Brand kicks the bucket. Murph sends a video message to Amelia illuminating her regarding her dad's demise and beseeches him to come clean that the entire situation had been a farce. The Perseverance team come to Man's planet a couple of months after the fact. The planet is unendingly chilly, covered with icy masses, and has a noxious climate of methane loaded up with ice mists. Dr. Mann, Matt Damon, who has been in cryosleep for more than 35 years, is stirred by Cooper and goes off the rails mentally, and alleviated he is protected. He recounts the tale of the bone-chilling, yet lovely world he lives in, demonstrating it has 80% of Earth's gravity and a lower part is bearable, potentially even a wellspring of new water. Brand sees the video Murph sent about her dad kicking the bucket and Plana being a farce. She is totally stunned and had no clue, however Man consoles her the condition was really tackled quite a while in the still up in the air to be unthinkable before he at any point went on the mission. The best way to at any point get information is get inside a dark opening, which is unimaginable without being killed. Back on the planet, Murph and her sweetheart, Dr. Getty, Topher Effortlessness, another NASA physicist, are driving in her Jeep through the disheartening fields looking over the vast billows of dark smoke and families with their frail 80 to 90-year-old vehicles out and about with their possessions close behind, similar as Midwestern ranchers in the 1930s disappearing to go west to track down a superior life. She realizes the condition is reasonable the same length as it comes from a dark opening and that Dr. Brand just gave part of it. Someplace in her psyche, she has a hunch that the directions of residue on the floor of her room quite a while in the past gave her a clue, along the books being driven over the rack, and with the Morse code message for Cooper to remain. She has an inclination this phantom is a being that has attempted to comfort her and assist with saving mankind. She knows it's not the end and that humankind is using up all available time. At the same time, Man is showing Cooper the frigid and denying world. Murph is once again at the Cooper estate with Dr. Getty looking at Tom's child for his lungs. Dr. Mann pulls off Cooper's voice guide and drives Cooper over the bluff, and Murph's sibling Tom is shocked by Dr. Getty's remark that they can't remain and will pass on, smacking him in the face. Mann uncovers to Cooper that the planet is dreadful and that he conveyed the message so he could take Cooper's spaceship to get back to Earth. Murph stands up to Tom that her dad never intended to save them, however break and surrender it to her, and Tom altogether declines and advises her to leave, trusting it's his obligation to deal with the homestead to satisfy his commitment for his dad. Mann is attempting to kill Cooper by breaking his protective cap's visor, permitting the alkali-rich air to choke out Cooper. Cooper figures out how to arrive at his voice signal that was removed from his head protector by Mann to call out for Brand to save him. Murph and Dr. Getty are driving back to NASA, however angrily, she pulls over and pours gas over corn yields and sets them ablaze, to occupy Tom and return to the farmhouse. Cooper has been saved by Brand. Mann's living quarters in the world has detonated and Romilly killed. Romilly was killed on the grounds that he was attempting to recover information from Mann's robot Kip, which was booby-caught and expected to uncover reality with regards to the planet. TARS emerges from the rubble to be safeguarded by Cooper and Brand, and they leave the planet. On the planet, Tom's family is presently out of the house and Murph is currently in her old room attempting to get a handle on the past. Cooper and Brand are leaving the planet, yet Mann is additionally in another van attempting to do so and will not pay attention to their supplications to not endeavor to dock with the Perseverance. Murph is in her room looking at her old assets to figure out what the apparition may be telling her. Dr. Mann has unfalteringly would not pay attention to the admonitions from Cooper and Brand not to dock with the Perseverance, but rather he proceeds with his endeavors. He's physically moved the boat into mooring position, however disregards the PC's alerts of blemish lock, and we see the mooring pliers endeavoring to get yet neglecting to secure. In mid-sentence the coupling discharge and the brutal removal of air into space conveys him with it, and coming about impact causes a blast. The Perseverance is currently wild and Cooper lets Brand know that he will dock with it, despite the fact that it is presently in a quick pivot. However, the divergent G powers from the twist are tremendous. Cooper can dock. Notwithstanding, they can't return to Earth and need to go to Edmund's planet to try and expect to get by, due to the existence support being annihilated. They need to slingshot around the dark opening Gargantua to come to Edmund's planet and on manual controls. During the nerve-wracking circle around Gargantua, Cooper and TARS isolate their separate transports and get sucked into the dark opening, forfeiting themselves to gather information on the peculiarity, and impel Amelia and Case quicker by lessening the boat's mass. Cooper isolates from Brand and his officer, without her earlier information, and Brand is on a way that will take her to Edmund's planet. He understands the expense of circling the dark opening because of the gravitational time enlargement will be 51 Earth years, however takes the risk. Brand is shocked with Cooper and presently left alone with Case. As Cooper's bus falls into the dark opening, gravitational powers start to tear it separated. Cooper is dropping towards the focal point of the dark opening with pellets that seem to be slush hitting his officer's spaceship. The PC of his boat advises him to launch himself, and without hesitance, he makes it happen. Cooper slips in the dark opening towards a framework brimming with cubbyholes, believing he's dead, and ends up in a life following death of some kind and ignorant about what kind of environmental factors he's where looks like a tesseract. He hits an item alongside a lot of others that seem as though books stacked and wrecks one, uncovering 10-year-old Murph responding at an item tumbling from her shelf back at the farmhouse. He thumped down the lunar lander model displayed toward the start of the film. He's shouting out for Murph, yet she leaves with it and doesn't hear him. Then he sees Murph in one more piece of the framework arguing for her dad not to leave. Cooper watches this, imploring himself not to go and to remain, utilizing Morse code by thumping the books off the rack. Cooper separates, understanding that he ought to have tuned in and not gone on the mission. Then there is grown-up Murph at the room while the fire is as yet consuming, and she understands up and down that her dad himself was the apparition speaking with her inclination helped and consoled. Presently it's all sounding good to her and she's at this point not irate with him and has trust. In any case, she's actually attempting to figure out the thing her dad is attempting to motion toward her, reviewing the occasions of the residue storm arranges and the books tumbling off. TARS gets Cooper out of his sorrow-stricken express that he may do and lets Cooper know that a few fifth-layered creatures sent him there to speak with Murph and that his affection for his girl sent him there to help her. Cooper is happy to see TARS is there with him. Cooper understands that the mission was not an error and that he will finish what he wants to. Murph has been the anointed one to save mankind, yet Cooper is the one decided to assist with designing it. He sends the directions to himself at the farmhouse to NASA, then, at that point, the information from the dark opening through TARS by means of Morse code to a wristwatch he gave Murph before he left, which is the gravity condition. Adolescent Murph set the watch back on the rack, making it feasible for Cooper to add the dark opening condition to it. Grown-up Murph chooses up the old wristwatch from a container of her old remembrances, seeing the second hand with the Morse code, understanding it's the key. Dr. Getty is begging Murph to get out and for them to leave in light of the fact that the fire is out. Murph leaves the farmhouse with the watch in her grasp, and furious Tom returns, yet she educates him regarding the watch, embraces him, guaranteeing her dad was the Phantom from the start and will save them. Tom is perplexed by everything, except acknowledges her embrace. Murph gets back to the NASA dugout and finishes the condition utilizing the information from the wristwatch. She composes everything down, and loses the papers, the deck of the Axis under development that the condition is addressed. She kisses Dr. Getty in an attack of satisfaction. So what will happen before long could save the vast majority of residual humankind. Back in the dark opening, the Tesseract is currently quitting for the day. Cooper persuaded everything worked, and Cooper is support that future people built it to get this truckload of going, and tells TARS all is great. He goes over the Perseverance when it went through the wormhole and contacts Brand's hand, then thumped oblivious into the circle of Saturn with several radiating lights moving toward him. Cooper awakens to end up in a clinic bed. An extremely spotless room with foundation commotion of a polished ash breaking a ball and birds tweeting. A specialist advises him to relax, flippantly letting him know he is currently 124 years of age, however he actually appears to be identical in his mid to late 30s. The specialist tells Cooper he's exceptionally fortunate to be alive in light of the fact that space officers found him with just minutes left in his oxygen. Cooper looks outside the window of his room with kids playing baseball with a player hitting a ball very high, which ends up being the lookout window of a topsy-turvy house with kids cheering at the window being broken. Cooper is informed he's on Cooper Station circling Saturn and thinks the station is named after him. However, it was named after his girl Murph. She's actually living and on another space station and will be there to visit him in 2 or 3 weeks regardless of her age and well-being. Cooper is happy that plan and accomplished to be sure work out and that the gravity condition was settled. The very rotator that was the NASA shelter is presently a space station to support human existence. Cooper is currently set free from his clinic room by a local escort and shown the station, an O'Neill chamber with an old world country American climate and has counterfeit daylight radiating from one side, which was a similar spot the rocket took off from quite a while back. They pass by a gathering of smooth officer sends that are more effective than what he utilized, and he takes an extraordinary interest in them. He is directed to a gallery display, which is his old farmhouse, just much cleaner and re-established. There are recordings out of control of old individuals recounting the residue bowl they lived in, whom you saw toward the start of the film, one of which is his girl. He finds a shorted out TARS in the farmhouse. The officers recuperated and promptly fixes him. Cooper is perched on the entryway patio that evening with TARS drinking brew like he and Donald used to do, however extremely disappointed at the fake environmental elements and claiming to be home. He's more keen on the spaceships than whatever else, despite everything, longing to investigate the unexplored world. Besides, nearly everyone he knew is currently dead and he wasn't invited back as a legend. Cooper is going to go to the clinic room where the older Murph, presently played by Ellen Burstyn, is experiencing the last days of her life. She demanded being brought to the station to express farewell to her dad. A medical caretaker lets Cooper know that her family is in there and that she spent the most recent 2 years in cryosleep. He didn't know she had a family and cautiously opens the entryway with more than 12 individuals, from little youngsters to moderately aged grown-ups encompassing her bed. His grandkids, extraordinary grandkids, incredible extraordinary grandkids, and their mates are there, yet he pays no psyche to them while they are bewildered by his appearance. His fundamental interest is seeing his little girl. Murph separates in amuse at seeing him, and he grasps her hand with no hesitance or clumsiness. Despite the fact that he's a similar age, he was the point at which he left, and she's 99 years of age and close to death. He guarantees her he was the Phantom that imparted to her in her room, and she definitely knew for quite a long time despite the fact that no one trusted her. He tells her he's presently here for her, however in her still spicy and obstinate ways, she doesn't believe he should see her pass on, saying her children are hanging around for herself and that she excused him and buried the hatchet with his vanishing many years prior. Cooper gradually passes on her space to see her one final time, and she's encircled by her cherished family and his relatives he doesn't know anything about. Realizing the space station isn't where he should be, he accepts Murph's recommendation to go search out Amelia Brand, who has arrived on Edmund's planet to begin colonization. It is a barren spot looking like Mars, however the air is breathable and can support life, so it's everything humankind can manage outside the space stations. Edmund's passed on quite a while in the past and is covered by case, yet Amelia keeps on camping out and places herself in cryosleep. Cooper takes one of the New Age officer Sens he's been fixated on and goes with TARS through the wormhole to track down her and beat the officers at their central goal.